Welcome to Money Conversations with KJ. KJ is a lifelong entrepreneur who's made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, and found his way back again. If you're looking for a sterile how-to, you're in the wrong place. KJ and his guests will walk you through real-life situations told by the people who live them, and they are as messy as they are inspiring. Each episode will offer lessons learned, advice on how to replicate successes and avoid pitfalls, and a new perspective to power your financial literacy. Far from a one-size-fits-all, this podcast can help you build a roadmap to your personal promised land. Milk and honey for some, whiskey and steak for others, and remind you that you're not alone on this journey.
Well, hello. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm KJ. Today, I have a very special guest. I'm very glad that you're here. Today, we're sitting with Natalie McBean. Hi, Natalie.
Hi.
So, I've got Natalie here because I'm going to let you tell your quick story where you're from and whatnot. But Natalie's, I know, from what do they say? The other side of the pond, as they would say. And so, Natalie, tell everybody who you are, where you came from.
So I grew up over in the UK, so small city, Cambridge, about an hour north of London. And I moved to the US when I was 19, when I joined the Air Force.
Nice. And so you've been here, I won't tell everybody your age, but you've been over here a little while. Yeah. So, great. So, today's conversation is, I'm hoping to get a little different perspective. I mean, the U.S. and U.K., very similar, obviously, now because you've been here a few years and whatnot. But I'm sure there's still some, I believe, I don't even know, you'll share with us the differences, right, between the two. But money's universal, right? Money's like air, right? We all breathe it and we all use it. So talk to me about, let's talk to the audience. So you said that you joined the Air Force at 19. So before the age of 19, and we'll figure out in a few minutes why you joined the Air Force. But so since we want to give lessons to the people out there, and I always like to start early in life, share with us what you can remember, your earliest memory with money, and when you understood what it was.
So probably my earliest memory is the house that we lived in. It was just me and my mum. She was a single mother. We had a machine by the door that our electric would run off of. And it only took a 50 pence piece. So you had to put 50 pence in it. And I remember having to go to the shop with a £5 note and getting the 50 pence pieces so that we could run this electric machine. So that's probably my earliest memory, because if the electric went out, my mum would give me some money and I'd run to the shop, maybe about 8 or 9. I'd run to the shop and ask for 50p's, and that was pretty normal. They would have bags of 50p's by the counter that they would give us in exchange for the notes. So that's probably my earliest memory.
That's interesting. And how old were you then?
Probably about 8 or 9.
About 8 or 9. So at 8 or 9, just because living necessity, right? Obviously you need power, that this thing, money, right, the pound, that it needed to make the electricity operate in your home, that you're like, okay, when did you figure, because mom just gave you the money to go get the pieces, right? And when did you figure, well, how does mom get her money? That obviously your mom worked.
She did.
But when did the two click that you're because most people trade time for money, right? You go get a job and you trade time for money. But at 9, and then maybe how far after where you're well, I want things, other than the power or whatever. Did you figure out how that money worked?
Probably just a little older than that. My mum always worked 2 jobs. She's got a very, very clear work ethic, and she worked very hard to support me. Probably school, because we wear uniforms at school. Even public schools wear uniforms. So the most important thing at school was shoes. That was the thing that everybody had to have, the nice shoes, because everything else was the same. The pants were the same, the shirts were the same, the sweaters were the same. So I think it was probably when I came to my mom and said, I really want these nice shoes, that I got an understanding that they were not cheap, and that she was actually working for this money, right? And, Natalie, I can't afford those shoes. Those are expensive shoes. Or if you want those shoes, you're going to have to do something for it. So that was probably when, maybe some chores came into view. Right.
So that was your first experience. And now the journey with money, I have to go trade something to get that money, right? Time, or there's a lot of different ways that we can make money. And so that was your is at 9 or 10. Well, that's cool. So how old were you, do you think, when you finally did go you did something to make your first money?
I was 16.
You were 16. So you got 5 years there. Mom, like we all do, right? We give our children everything that they need. And so at 16, you decided to go get a job. Why?
I don't even really know if it was my decision.
Oh, yeah?
My aunt was the manager at a shop, and my cousin, who's about 2 years older than me, she had got a job at the shop on a Saturday. And so I think I remember them coming to me and saying, do you want to work on Saturday and make some money? Minimum wage, I don't even remember what it was, but it was not a lot of money. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll make some money. I don't remember really needing or wanting anything. I feel like they probably came to me with that proposal. But then, of course, when you do start making the money, it changes your mindset a little bit. But that's how I came into my first job, just working a Saturday, 9 till 5, stocking shelves type business.
So that's your first introductory to money. Share with us what, if anything, did Mom teach you? Like if you went home and say, hey, Mom, listen, my friend is going to, I was working over here. I'm going to go work too and make some money. Mm-hmm. Did Mom sit you down and give you any money lessons? No. I
didn't have any money lessons until I was in the Air Force.
Until the Air Force. Yeah. And that's interesting because this is kind of a common theme, right? I've talked to a lot of people, and we all learn our financial literacy somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody just assumes, right, that mom and dad teach their kids about money. But the reality is they don't, right? But I have a phrase that I share out there, which is parents can't teach what parents don't know. Now, why she didn't teach you, we don't know. She's not here to answer that question. Mm-hmm. But why do you think maybe she didn't?
I don't know that was ever something that my mum worried about or thought about. Personally, yes. Like I said, she worked 2 jobs. My mum worked very hard. She never took any money from the government. She bought the house that we lived in. She was a single parent. So I know that money was important for her, and I know that it is now. Why she never relayed that to me, I don't know that was ever something she thought about. I think her mind was focused on raising me. And
taking care of business.
Taking care of, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that it ever dawned on her to pass that information to me.
So did you, at some point, you started working at 16, at some point go and ask Mom any type of, hey, Mom, how does this work? How does that work? Type financial questions? Or did you just kind of start to just figure it out?
Yeah, I don't know that I ever asked her anything. No, I wasn't really making a lot of money. I spent what I got. Mm-hmm. I never saved anything then. No, I don't know that I ever did.
So that's interesting. Again, it's all very common, guys, out there. And again, this is not right or wrong, good or bad. It is what it is, right? We just know now when we get to be a few years older in age, looking back, like, man, if I'd have known this or if I'd have known that, boy, would I be in a different position today, right? And you have children, right? Have you, as a mom, how old is your oldest now?
He's 7. Well, he'll be 7 next week.
And you got a baby at home too. So have you had any conversations with your 7-year-old about money?
A little bit here and there. He has some chores that he does. If he fills the dog bowl, he gets 25 cents. So he has asked for things. So we'll go on Amazon and we'll find what he wants. And then he has to do X amount of chores in order to get it. So we're trying to have that conversation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I only ask that because I've also had guests on here that talk about, I had one guest on here, a good friend of mine, who has young kids also, and he started to teach his kids at 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
And by 7, they literally know how to trade stocks online.
Wow.
Yeah, right? Because he's a big stock trader guy. Yeah. And so he taught them because he shared with them about the value of money and the value of our time and what we need to do and why we go make money and do the things that we do with it. So the lesson is that you didn't, I didn't either. My parents didn't talk to me about money. Wish they did, right? We all wish they did. Right. Would have saved a lot of money and time over the years. So I think it is important that we teach our kids and they start to understand. You recognize your mom, super hard worker, great work ethic, worked 2 jobs to be able to support the lifestyle for you and her, right? Which is awesome. So you always pretty much probably had all the necessities in life, yes, just not a ton of big luxuries or whatever, right? So let's move a minute there. So that's at 16 and you had that job and that was part-time?
Yeah, it was just a Saturday.
Just
my
a
first
Saturday.
job, yeah.
And then when did you start to work more days per week to make more money?
So once I was done with school, so I was about 17, I started a full-time job as a housekeeper.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. And you did that for specific reasons? You started to accumulate bills, or you're like, I just need to go, I can't just hang around the house all day, 7 days a week, right?
Yeah, that would not have been an option in my mum's house.
Yes.
Hanging around is not an option. I
Right.
had to work. My friend actually worked at this particular place. It was actually on the Air Force Base. She worked there, so it seemed to be okay money. It was a Monday through Friday, and I loved my weekends because that's when I go and have fun.
Right.
So it just seemed to kind of fit the bill. I needed a job. I was done with school. I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So it just, I needed a job, and that's what it was.
So, which is interesting because there you are at 17, finishing school, get your first job, and like you just said, you weren't quite sure what you wanted to do with your life yet, right?
No.
And one of the chapters that I teach in my program is goals, right? I think it's just really, well, I know now it's really, really important to set goals, right? Goals is a roadmap to where we're going. And if you don't have goals, that means we don't know where we're going. We're just flying blind, right? Like I know today you drove over here, and I know you've been to my house. You're like, send me your address again, and you probably stuck it in your little,
I sure did.
in your MapQuest in your car there, gave you the directions exactly how to get here, and that's exactly how we all have to treat our finances, right, and our goals of what we want to do financially, right? That way we can map it out. Otherwise, this is why people end up not having money, because they don't really have a clear perspective of where they're going and what they're doing. But it comes back to most of us, and you're in the same boat. It didn't matter that the kids over here in America versus the kids in the UK, same thing, right? We have parents here that just unfortunately, for whatever their reasons were, and we don't know, aren't teaching that. And we know financial literacy. What did you learn in school, right? So you went all through high school and you graduated. Do you remember any lessons about money in school?
No.
None.
Nothing. Absolutely.
Why do you think they don't teach us that?
I don't know. It seems ridiculous now that you're asking the question. I don't know. I
Right?
don't know why they don't teach it, but it'd be a good idea, right?
This is why it's my passion that I try to teach as many people, right?
Yeah.
And I get to have conversations with you, and you're a mom, and like, I think as a parent, and I've got 4 grown kids, that we always want our kids to hopefully do better than what we did, right?
Right.
And so we have to teach them all the things. And so, hopefully then maybe just even after this conversation, you can take a closer look at what you're doing, because you got 4 kids at home.
Yeah.
So you're 17, and I'm reaching up to, you had said that you joined the Air Force at 19.
Yes.
So you're a couple of more years and you're getting ready to join. So you worked that full-time job for a little while and did whatever probably most 17, 18-year-olds do with money, which is just, buy some luxury items and have fun on the weekends and that kind of stuff. And then what had you make the decision of saying, you know what, I'm going to join the Air Force?
I got to the point where my parents sat me down. So at this point, my mum had remarried. Or had gotten married, and so my stepdad was in the picture, and I had a sibling. My sister was born, so we'd kind of moved up in the world a little bit as well. And so we sit down at the kitchen table, and they're kind of like, Natalie, what are you going to do with your life? And I'm like, I don't know, like I'm having fun, I had no bills. I think my mum had given me her old beat up car, and I paid £80 a month to live at home, because my mum's like, you're working full time, you're going to pay to live at home, right? You're not just going to live here for free. So they were like, yeah, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I have no idea. I didn't have a particular passion for anything. So my dad was active duty military at the time. My stepdad was. And actually my real father was active duty as well. And, they said, well, have you thought about the Air Force? I'm like, absolutely not. But I was working on an Air Force base, and I did hang out with people that were in the Air Force. So they're like, well, you mean you're hanging out with them? You might as well be one, right? So I was like, okay, well, I'll think about it. And we went to see the recruiter, so.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, again, so your dad, your stepdad, you were around the whole environment of it. It kind of just makes sense how you evolved, into joining. And now how many years are you in?
18.
18?
It'll be 18 in March.
Yeah. And I would venture to say you would say that's probably the best decision you made in your life.
Absolutely.
Right?
I never planned to be in this long, but yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So tell everybody what you do for a living.
I am a physician assistant. I'm a major in the Air Force.
A major in the Air Force, physician assistant, right? There, your word, 18, 19, like, what am I going to do? I don't know. I don't have a clue. I don't have a passion. But that's normal for 18-year-olds, for a lot of 18-year-olds. There's definitely 18-year-olds out there that know exactly what they want to do by the time they're 18 because they've created some sort of passion, whether it's sports or music or whatever. But I would say the majority were just where you were. Like, I don't know. And the thing is, I look back and it was a great decision you made because a lot of young people will flounder about making a decision for a while. Like, they'll be 25, even 30. Like, I still don't know yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. Where time is our most valuable asset, right? Don't waste it. And so 18 years.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I noticed the difference when I was younger between the Americans and us Brits, the school is so different. In England, you finish school at 16, and at 16, it is really hard to figure that out, what you want to do. And I did go to an American school for a short period of time that was on the Air Force Base, and they really harp on college. So I feel like there was a difference there. They kind of set you up a little bit more. You know, there's that kind of expectation that maybe you'll go to college after school, but you guys don't finish school till you're 18, which at least gives you a little bit more time to try to figure out what you're going to do with your life. But at 16, I think you're really at a disadvantage. You know, I mean, you're immature at 18, but you're really immature at 16.
Correct.
You know, so I don't know how anybody really figures it out that young, honestly.
Yeah, you know, that's the age that 15 to 20, we're there's so much stuff we're all figuring out, not just money, but again, what you want to do for your living, what your passions are. I mean, there's just a lot of, this is why teenagers are hard to raise because they don't know where they're going. Because one day it's this way and the other way another day it's another way. So, well, good for you that, you know, you made that decision. Was that a hard decision? No?
I did see the recruiter twice. I went the first time and I was like, yeah, okay, kind of sounds good. I think I wasn't ready to give up having my fun. And then about 6 months later, you know, my fun got old and I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. And we went back to see the recruiter a second time. But once I made the decision and I signed away, and I still had to wait 6 months for the job that I wanted. But once I made that decision, it didn't feel hard. I think I was a little nervous about leaving England, but it wasn't particularly a hard decision, no.
So let's get into, all right, so you get in there, and I'm sure the first year, you know, the basic training and all that stuff, and then at whatever point that you decide to be a physician's assistant, that you learned a lot of things, I'm sure, since you've been in there in 18 years. But at what point did you think that you started to, or did they teach you, or maybe now friends and peers started to talk about money and what you were going to do with money? Because now you got a steady paycheck from the Air Force. And you probably lived on base for however long. So your bills were very low, but you're making money. So when did money education start to come? Like, man, what am I going to do with all this money? Not that they give you a lot of money when you first get in, right?
But I still have my one of my very first paychecks. It was like $500.
Yeah.
But all my bills were paid. So I remember they give you an educational class when you're in basic training, actually.
About money? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is almost your first lesson with money. Right? Was like, hey, well, they're actually going to talk to me about money. Right? Because they know they're giving you your check every 2 weeks or whatever it is. How was that? Was that kind of eye-opening?
A little bit, yeah.
What was your biggest takeaway from it?
The one thing I remember is them encouraging us to put money away into the TSP for retirement. And I remember thinking, I'm 19 years old, retirement is so far away, why would I take part of my money and put it in this, right? So I remember that. That was probably the biggest thing I remember, actually. When you get to your very first base, so I think I was in basic training 6 weeks, I was in my tech school for about 10 weeks, then I got to my first base and they put you through what's called the First Term Airman Centre. And they do lots of education there. And they did another financial briefing there. And they kind of talked to us about our pay stub, what it looks like, and again, putting away for retirement.
So you bring an interesting thing. I want to go down this road because I hear this so much from the 18 to 25-year-olds. Like, you thought retirement is so far away.
Oh, yeah.
As an adult now, looking back, and this statement really kills me, because that is a mindset that we're all probably, because now you're the UK, I'm going to say on the planet, right? That we're all programmed to believe that retirement is an age.
Right.
And that retirement that's the furthest thing from the truth. Retirement is not an age.
Correct.
Retirement is a dollar amount. Retirement is when your money makes enough money that your money works and you don't.
Right.
But that's not an age. You know that now as an adult, right? But at 18, you're through not really tradition, because mom didn't teach you, and you were just learning from those guys. So you just would learn from society that retirement's an age. And typically, what did you think retirement age was?
I'm thinking like 60 plus.
Right. And you're like 20, you're like 40 years. What am I going to worry about something I'm going to need 40 years from now?
Grandmother. Yeah.
And that's why I love teaching the lesson of the rule of 72, compound interest, to the young people. Because if once you truly understand how compound interest works, you're like, well, yeah, I'm happy I'm 20. I got all these years to make money grow. So, okay, so you had your first lesson, and then you did all your training, some other teachings. You got your second lesson, talking about your page. So what was your biggest takeaway on the second lesson? Did you start to think, maybe they're right about this retirement savings thing?
Yes, but I still didn't put any money into it. I still didn't do that for another few years. But I do remember having a conversation with my dad about it, my stepdad, because he was like, yeah, it's a really good idea. You should put some money away. And he kind of gave me some ideas of how much of my paycheck I should put away. But I still didn't do it.
Other than being in the Air Force and getting the TSP account, did you know about any other types of accounts that you could open, and or maybe did your stepdad talk to you? You should look at this account. I mean, there's many accounts that we can open.
Yeah.
So did anybody teach or talk to you about those, or do you think you were too young and just like, I don't want to hear about it right now?
So my stepdad was the person. So when I left England, I needed an American bank account so I could get paid. So we went to the bank and he opened a bank account for me, and I had a checking and a savings. This was the first time I had a checking and a savings. Before, I just had kind of my little checking account. And he gives me $1,000 and he puts it in my savings. He's like, if you need anything, you've got this money here, right? So I go into the Air Force and start kind of collecting my little paychecks. And then I had a realization about savings accounts, because my savings account started to go down and I started to lose money. And I was like, my dad gave me $1,000 and I haven't touched my savings and I've only got $800. So I called my dad. I'm like, what's happening to my money? And he's like, oh man, I better look into this. So he starts investigating. It turned out I was spending way too much money, and they were pulling it from my savings to cover it. And that was my first realization. I was like, oh man, like I need to pay attention to how much money I'm spending, because I'd been in basic training, I'd been in tech school, I hadn't really spent anything, so I saw like a couple of $1,000s and I think I'm rich.
Right.
So I'm just spending money, I'm buying shoes and I'm getting my hair done and eating Chinese food. And needless to say, I was eating away at my savings and I didn't even realize.
Right. That's interesting. People live that way their whole lives, unfortunately. Yeah. Right. And we need to always monitor. I know you monitor your money now, and we'll get to that point, but that was an eye-opener, huh?
That was a huge eye-opener, and it was really embarrassing when my dad said, did you eat at this Chinese place? I'm like, yeah. Did you buy these shoes? I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, Natalie, this is your money. You're spending your own money. I was like, oh, I thought somebody was stealing it. No, it was just me. I was absolutely not paying attention.
So is that when you learned or someone taught you about budgeting?
Yeah.
Okay, that's when budgeting began.
Yeah.
And so that would be your, early 20s?
Yes, I was probably just turning 20 when I learned that lesson.
For
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, luckily it was just a few $100s and not a few $1,000s.
Yes.
Right, because people get themselves stuck in a pickle that way. So you learned budgeting. So I'm trying to get to at what point right now so far at 20, your main two teachings are from the Air Force, because you had classes that it wasn't even a choice. You're like, you've got to go to this class, right?
Yep, mandatory.
At what point did you proactively, all on your own, say, you know what, I've got to learn more, and then went and did your own research?
So around that time, they have an and Family Readiness Center, and they do financial classes, and somebody will sit down with you one-on-one. So I did that. I went and found somebody and sat down and kind of went over budgeting. Probably still not really taking it super serious, but enough where I was not spending my savings. And from that class, from that one-on-one teaching, I then opened my first credit card. That was my lesson, that maybe I needed to build some credit, because I had no credit at all in the United States, nothing.
So let's go down that road, because credit, it's funny. I've got behind you on a board. I'm getting ready to do a video on credit cards. Have you heard of Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman?
I've heard of Dave Ramsey.
Okay. So these two people are very well-known financial advisors, and Dave Ramsey will 100% tell you, do not get a credit card.
Yep.
Don't do
I've
it.
heard that, yeah.
Right? This is 2021 now, and I would say for the last 20 years, actually, credit card, because he says when I hear the phrase credit cards are bad, right? Don't get credit cards, they're bad. You're going to get in trouble. And I say, well, wait a minute. A credit card's a piece of plastic, okay? So it's not that the credit card's bad. It's the people who use them irresponsibly. So don't blame the credit card. There are a lot of great benefits of having credit cards. And one is the reason you got yours, the reason I teach my kids to get them is to build credit, right? Because we have to build credit. And the only way you can build credit is because someone's extending you credit, whether it's a car loan, any kind of a loan, and or the credit cards is the easiest way to start. And so you got your first one because someone said, get your first credit card to build your credit. And was there a reason why you were going to build your credit? Was there a specific reason, like that you said, okay, I'll do that because I got to build credit because why?
I don't remember really understanding the whole purpose at the time, but I do know that when I first got to my first base and I wanted to get a cell phone and I didn't have any credit, and I had to put down $500 in order to get a cell phone, which my dad paid for, my stepdad paid for, because I didn't have that money, and I didn't have any credit. So I remember.
So you had to put a big deposit.
Right.
Is what it was.
So I remember her saying that, and I was like, oh, okay. Maybe this is something I need to do. And then I did talk to my stepdad about it, and he was like, yeah, you should definitely look at getting a credit card. Just keep keep the amount low and make sure you pay it off regularly. So that's what I did. It was like a $300 credit card. And
was that advice that your dad gave you the only advice you've ever gotten with credit cards? Keep it low and pay your payments on time.
Pretty much, yes.
Since that point, and so we're talking a few years now, what else have you learned about credit cards?
Well, there's lots of.
How many do you have now?
I have 2, but I only have one that I use regularly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how do you use yours? How do you view them?
I love credit cards. The one that I use regularly is my Amex, and I use that because there's so many benefits. There's so many points, rewards type that goes with using that credit card. So really, I use that a lot for the benefits.
So, and then you have 2. Okay. And your credit score is in the good or great range, whatever it is. It's funny because a lot of people get in trouble when they get their credit cards, because you'll get a credit card and, most people start with a low limit, like you said, 300, 500, and then build them up right from there. I remember teaching this lesson to one of my nephews, who told me at the time, he goes, man, I can't get my credit score above 620. I'm like, well, let's talk what you're doing. And so he was doing kind of the right things with it. He wasn't overextending as far as maxing out his cards, but understanding how credit cards work are critical to maintaining a credit score that you can use your credit to buy whatever, houses, cars, big ticket items. And the magic number is, a lot of people are out there, and if you get a credit score up to 800, that's great. 800 though doesn't have to be, you don't have to have 800 credit score to get the best interest rate on whatever loan you're going to get. The magic number actually is 750. Anything over 750 is just gravy. It doesn't even matter, right? And most people can get to 750 fairly easy. The more money you make, the higher your score will grow quicker because you're spending. It's all about spending money and how we spend it, our spending habits. And if you have your Amex card, most Amex cards you pay off at the end of the month. You can't even. There are some Amex cards that will have revolving credit on it where you can get yourself in trouble. But so I shared with him, I said, well, hey, I know he had a condo at the time, few other bills. I said, how are you paying your bills? He goes, I just send him a check. I'm like, all right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop sending checks to everybody, like I don't send checks to anybody. Nowadays, because of technology, we all pay our bills, online?
Electronically, yeah.
And so I said, start paying all your bills. I said, call every one of your bill people, whoever and call them up and say, do you take credit cards for payment? Yeah. And he said, okay. And he did that. I said, where we live here in Vegas, I go, everybody does it except the gas company. Yes. I don't know why. The gas company says, send a check. So anyway, but I think they do now take it. But for years they didn't. And I said, start paying your bills that way. I go, we'll talk in 90 days. He goes, okay. I talk to him 90 days later, and he goes, it's up to $700 now. I go, see, you didn't spend money differently. I mean, you're not spending any more money. It's just how you pay things. Yes. Understand that credit card companies are a for-profit business. They want to make money, right. And we all need to understand how they make money. How do you believe credit card companies make money?
Interest.
See, that's the number one answer I get. And the reality it is, the most of them, they do make money on interest for sure, but most of the money they make are from merchants. Every time you or I swipe that card, wherever it is, the gas station, grocery store, wherever, that merchant's got to pay a fee.
Okay.
Anywhere from 1% to 3%, depending on the credit card. Now, Amex charges the most to these merchants. They're 3%. Yeah. Right? So picture and imagine if you're Mr. Visa Bank, all around the globe, how many swipes are happening once a minute?
Oh my gosh.
Like tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Just like, and that's why they make so much money, right? So understanding that, when I teach the credit card game, it's like, it's their game and their rules. We're just here to play, but you need to understand the rules, how to play that game to be your advantage. So you mentioned earlier, and I have that on my board behind you, and why I don't understand why Dave Ramsey would say, don't get them. They're horrible. They're going to hurt you, this and that, where I teach my kids now, especially my girls, that I don't want you carrying any cash because you could lose your purse could get stolen, whatever, and that's gone. And if your debit card's in there and they drain your bank, that money's gone. If you only carry your credit cards with you and limited cash, I always say carry $40 cash, tips and stuff, right? I go, if you lose your purse or your wallet and they took your credit cards and maxed them out, that's not your money.
Right.
You don't owe that, right? They have insurance for that stuff. So it's for convenience, number one, a credit card. Two, to protect you against fraud. If they fraud your card, again, it's not your money. Don't worry about it. Three, keep yourself out of trouble that way, getting mugged or whatever. I mean, we live in a safe enough city. I personally don't know anybody who got mugged here. But all of these great benefits that we can have by doing them. So at what point did you learn about all these benefits? Were you proactive about doing that or just through experience?
I didn't learn about credit card benefits until like 3 years ago.
Oh.
Until I got my Amex, actually.
Until you get your Amex.
Yeah. Because otherwise I was using it to pay a few bills here and there. Not as much as I do now. Now I pay like my daycare, just
everything. Just pay everything.
Lots of bills get paid off of that.
Because we're going to spend that money anyway, right. Somewhere or another. I mean, we're going to spend them. We have those bills; they're going to get paid. So why wouldn't I pay it with my credit card versus my debit or a check? It's all coming from this. We're going to pay it anyway, and because you have family in the UK and you can have enough points for airline tickets.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's money made. I know. A lot of people. I have a good friend of mine has a nice sized company here. He spends on an average of about $300,000 a month on his Amex.
Wow.
This guy he goes 3 times a year on vacation, totally paid for.
Yeah, I can see it.
From all of the points. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
So good. And being active duty, we don't have to pay the annual fee.
Right.
Because I think it's a $500 annual fee for the Platinum Amex. We don't have to pay that.
So that's another, a good benefit. You guys get a lot of benefits for being military. A couple more quick questions about tradition. When you started to learn about money and you're talking with Mom, did you share with Mom? Did you ever say, hey, Mom, how come you never taught me this?
No, I've never had that conversation.
Have you ever, some of the things you've learned, shared with your mom? Maybe she needs to learn. I definitely know people that have taught their parents.
I haven't, mainly because when my stepdad came into the picture, my mum kind of taught him about money, but then he kind of took the ball and ran with it. So now he's kind of the money man in the family. So he's the one with the most knowledge. So now we share information. Like me and my stepdad share information about money.
Oh, good.
And that just kind of trickles down to my mom, I guess.
Yeah.
You know? We do have conversations about money, absolutely, because in the family we have a trust, and I'm named on it. So if anything happens to my dad, you know, I'm kind of the next person along with my mum to help keep the family afloat and take care of the rest of the siblings. So we've definitely had those conversations about money, but not very often am I the teacher. Sometimes, but...
Well, hopefully you'll become more of a teacher, especially with the kids. So let's go about, so we left off, you were, I don't know, a couple of years in this, or you're making money, you got your accounts open. When do you remember, and I really like teaching the goals in my classes, when did you start to actually make goals and do things that are structured to meet your goals? I know you have goals today.
Yes, yeah, we have goals, definitely. I don't really remember a specific time because I didn't buy a house until I lived in Virginia. So that was probably when I maybe started to have financial goals, clear goals, because I wanted to purchase a home. So that was probably the first time, and that was in 2016.
Well, when you joined, the Army, your first base was stateside here then?
Yeah, North Dakota.
Was when your first experience with this. How were you excited to get over here to see what's what?
I think I was more nervous than excited because it's so traumatizing when you first get off the bus and everyone's yelling at you. You know, basic training is incredibly traumatizing. So by the time I got to my first base, I think that was probably the time that I was more excited because it was more relaxing, but very nerve-wracking being in that situation. But I didn't have any, I was very, very comfortable. Like you said, I lived in the dorms, and they give you housing allowance and food allowance, and they give you clothing allowance. So absolutely didn't want for anything.
And you were where? North Dakota?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Forks. Yeah.
That is one cold place.
Yeah, it gets hot too. Really hot.
Really hot.
Yeah.
Was that kind of the weather where you grew up?
No, it never got that cold in England.
No?
No, but it stays cold. It's kind of gloomy all year for the most part. Yeah, you'll have pretty decent summers here and there, but I didn't realise how crappy the weather was until I moved away.
So I know you're married to Melvin, and when you were at the age, because you guys have been married how long now?
Coming up 4 years.
So was it, I'm trying to get to a question of when you met him, and you've already got some pretty serious financial stuff happening in your life from all the stuff that you learned.
Yes.
How important was it to you when you're dating, you're doing your thing, because most people don't talk about money when they're dating, right? Until it starts to get serious.
Right.
Like, am I dating or falling in love with someone who's horrible with money that's going to make me broke, or is it the opposite kind of thing, right? And so my question would be, and I think it's for everybody out there that's listening and you're maybe in that dating world, I think this could be a fork in the road in your life of the direction you can go, right? If you're the person that's going to take the reins, or you're kind of at least have that conversation of like, what's kind of, hey, what do you do with your money? This is what I do with mine kind of thing. Do you remember having those conversations?
Absolutely.
How important was that to you?
Incredibly. I was married before Melvin, and my ex-husband was awful with money. So much that we didn't have a joint bank account because I was scared.
So you learned a lesson in your first marriage.
Yeah. And so when me and Melvin got together, it was really important that we had that conversation about money, because I didn't want it to be something that was awkward for us, or that we would argue about and have disagreements. So it was important to me right off the bat to say, hey, look, we need to make sure that we're being smart here, and what does your credit look like, right? What does your bank account look like? Am I going to be carrying us?
What kind of advice would you give someone, some young girls in their ages 20 to 25 kind of thing that are out there? I mean, because you probably didn't have that conversation the first time you fell in love with your first husband, right?
I did not.
Probably was the furthest thing from your mind.
Yeah.
So looking back, right, and we want to teach lessons on this podcast, what's a good lesson we could teach the young ladies?
I would say have the conversation early, and if you are serious, pull a credit report, look over them together and have a look, because there are things on there that that they may not want to bring up, that they might be embarrassed about, or it just might show a trend. And I know, it probably seems dramatic, but I really think it's a good idea to look at somebody's financial history. And it doesn't mean, that you're not going to move forward with that person, but just having an understanding, because they may say, I made some mistakes, but this is where I'm at. Okay, great, because a credit report breaks everything down by month, so you can really tell if somebody's really making those good changes, right?
Right.
But it's really important. I think money is probably one of the things that couples argue about the most.
It is. It definitely is. It's the number one reason why people get divorced. But but that can be a hard conversation to bring up, don't you think?
Absolutely.
I guess you got to wait until you're like thinking, this could be the guy, right? The one that you want to spend the rest of your life with. And so, ladies out there, I'm not saying this is an easy conversation, right? But it's probably a really beneficial conversation to have. Timing of it has to be right. Yeah.
And I would say before that, just pay attention. I think you can tell a lot by just going out to eat and whatever kind of things that you guys are doing, just paying attention to how they spend their money. Are they reckless? Are they spending it on really high ticket items, and you're wondering, how on earth did he afford that? Is he driving a Beamer and is hardly making any money? Because we had that. I mean, being in the Air Force, this is why they had so many finance classes. People got in trouble a lot with money, and they would get to their first base and buy a Beamer and they couldn't afford it. And in the military, you can get in serious trouble if you get in trouble financially. Mm-hmm. It can really affect your career. So I would say just pay attention.
So that's a benefit for the people that are in the military, because if you're a civilian, nobody cares if you get in trouble. Nobody cares if you spend all your money. You're not getting in trouble, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe siblings or parents are looking at you like, what are you doing, kind of thing, but you're not getting in trouble. So the military can definitely keep you guys on the straight and narrow financially, because there are consequences, right, when you're being irresponsible. But that gets me thinking about, given that advice is great advice to the young ladies, thinking back now on the advice of, you were mentioning when you were 19 and they were teaching you need to open your TSP account, right, your retirement account, and your mindset back then was like, what are you talking about? Like, that's so far away in the future. I can't even think about it. But what advice would you give the 19-year-old you today?
Oh my gosh, just do it. Just do it. I mean, the money I put away was so minimal in the grand scheme of things. I don't know that I would have even noticed, It just gets tucked away before it even hits your bank. So just do it. It's not as far away as you think.
It really isn't. Time flies so fast. So for you guys that are out there, I would say under the age of 30, I think between 25 and 30, you start realizing, holy mackerel, time's just going by so fast. But I mean, the older we get, trust me, I don't want to think about it, but it goes really fast. But I agree. I mean, we need to share that even with, did you ever have conversations with some of your friends about money? Because sometimes people, even with your friends, you're like, it can be kind of a weird conversation, or it could be like you're super excited about, what you just did.
I don't remember having conversations about money. By the time I was starting to get smart about it, I'd PCS back to England, so I'd left that base in Grand Forks in North Dakota, and I'd gone back to England, so I was around family. So a lot of the people I was hanging out with were actually my British friends from before I'd left, and our lifestyles are so incredibly different anyway. So money was never really anything that we discussed. It just,
No. It's funny because, one of the first, you and I remember meeting you, and then all the guys know what I do for a living, like mainly real estate, but I do have a passion for this financial literacy. And I had talked with Melvin about it, and we all had a lunch and sat down and talked about it, because you guys are in that times of your life, you're like, we got to, we have like basically excess cash we have to put to work and, and investing. When do you remember that you needed or wanted to start investing? When did it? Because at 19, you're like, retirement's so far away, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not putting any money away. But at what age was it like, did someone say, are you investing yet? Or what are you investing in?
So that was when I went back to England. And my dad was like, did you ever do that TSP thing? I was like, no. So I went and did it. So I was about 23 at the time when I actually started to put money away into the TSP. And that was the only type of investment or money that I'd really put away towards something until I was much older.
What triggered you to the investing world?
Probably Melvin and his conversations with you guys and things that his friends were doing, and they were like, maybe we should look into this, especially because we do make pretty good money, so we do have some money to spare to put away and build.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd had my house in Virginia, and that obviously is something that I looked at as an investment as well. So we had talked about maybe we should kind of spin into that world a little bit as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's investing and making money should go hand in hand from the earliest of ages.
Right.
So I think the lessons, even so, if you can think about when you had those classes, did they? I mean, again, I don't want to go all the way through what they taught you exactly, but I'm sure they were giving you fundamentals, this and that. But did they talk about investing in those classes?
Not that I remember. It was
No.
very basic.
See, and I think people don't realize until you get to that age of 40 and plus, like, man, I need to start investing money. I need to make my money make money. If you think that you want some sort of a retirement that is comfortable for you. Yeah. And I also teach, retirement is such a different place for everybody. There are people out there that would be really happy and comfortable to retire on $2,000 a month.
Right.
And there are people out there that say, man, I cannot retire for less than $20,000 to $25,000 a month, right?
Maintain that.
Okay, great. Those are your goals. That's fine. Again, no right or wrong answer here. It's just, how are you going to get there? Right. That's the question. And if you aspire to have these, high five-figure lifestyles, you have to put money to work. You cannot trade time for money and expect to get there. So I like to teach that investing is your fuel to your future. Like we put gas in our cars to go or they won't go. Right? Investing is for our money careers. If we don't invest, right, we're not going to get where we need to go. Where most people live the lifestyle of whatever money they make. They usually will save and make a couple extra bucks because of vacations or big ticket items like, I know I need a new car in 2 years kind of thing, so I'll save up my down payment money or something. But investing is going to get you to financial independence, which should be the goal, where your mindset at 19, which is very typical that retirement is an age, which is we're all programmed that way, where we should all say, man, how quick can I get to financial independence? Right? And understanding what financial independence even means. So most people don't. Financial independence means when your money makes enough money to support your lifestyle. And that's a different dollar amount for every single family out there. So what do we got to do to get there? We have to invest. If we're not making our money work, then we'll never get to be financial independence. Could you live a comfortable lifestyle? Yeah. But you'll work till you die. Right? And nobody wants to do that. Especially when you got kids, you want to have fun and all that kind of stuff. Well, shoot. What else can we share with the people? Your journey how is the mindset? Do you believe someone from the UK for the first half of your life and the second half of your life in the US? Are we very similar, or are we just worlds apart?
Financially, or just in general?
Both.
Probably more worlds apart than similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting, and that's why I was so excited to have you here today, because it's your perspective. You lived it. Right. I mean, you didn't cross the pond till you were 19. Granted, what we learned from 19, the first half of your life to the second half of your life, I mean, we learn a lot more as we get older, but we're worlds apart. Like you go home. When's the last time you were home?
I was there in April 2018 for my aunt's wedding.
Yeah. And you saw some of your older friends and what everybody's doing these days, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm not as close to them as I used to be. We're just very different. Our mindsets are incredibly different. So when I do see them, which is not very often, we often spend our time talking about the past because our futures are different. Our presents are very different.
Yeah. I like that phrase you just used, our mindsets have changed. And the reality is our mindsets change our whole life. Our belief systems change, for a variety of reasons. It could be the mindset of a parent with one child versus the mindset of a parent with 4 children, right? two different mindsets, your belief systems, and they're going to change. But I think one thing that hopefully can stay consistent with people, so you guys are out there listening, is let's get your mindset correct with money and why we do what we do to get the money. You know, you've heard the phrase, money doesn't bring happiness. Poor people say that. A rich person will never tell you that.
Right.
Money, I always say, all money is a tool that gives you more options. So you can ask yourself in your lifetime, how many options do I want? Right. Because the less money you have, the less options you have, right? We always want options. So it's interesting how being over there, now you've been on this side of the pond for as long as you have, and you can see it. You recognize that there is a different mindset between the two types of people on both sides, which is interesting. But my podcast is listened to. I've got downloads from 7 countries.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they're listening from all over.
Yeah.
And that's why I think these conversations are so important, because whether it's someone in the UK, I got people in Africa, I got people in New Zealand that are listening, and they're thinking, well, what are they doing?
Right.
You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, on the whole planet, whether it's an American dollar, a pound, or all these other currencies, it's still the same. People are trading time or something for it, right? And there should be a mindset of, we don't want to do that for our whole lives, right? You have seen, right? You've been privy to seeing people who are wealthy, who have done things, and there's a lot of different ways to get to wealth. I don't want to go down that road, but the types of lives that you can live because you have more options, because you have more money. But that's why we invest, right? And I know you're investing. So I hope a lot of you guys out there got a good takeaway from today's story with Natalie. Natalie, I want to thank you for coming out. It's been it was really fun. That was a fun journey.
Yeah.
You're having a good time.
Yeah.
And you got a long way to go with your money, with your goals and everything you're going to do. But I feel that you guys are on a really good path.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I talked to Melvin. We talk, I see your husband twice a week almost. So you guys are in a good space. Where you're at with the military is good. I know financially you guys are going to be just fine. There's a lot of people that aren't and whatnot. But again, thanks for coming out. All right, guys, if you like what you heard today, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button if you like today's episode. I got more coming. Remember, every week, Wednesday, 7 a.m., a new podcast comes out, and it is on YouTube and on most podcast platforms. So reach out, send me some notes if you like to. Other than that, you guys have a good week, and we'll talk at you next week. Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Really enjoyed making all these episodes for you. Remember, we're just having conversations with people's journey with money and the things they did right with it, the things that did wrong with it, and how did they really come about getting their mindset with money. So every episode's different. We all have a good takeaway from them. So do me a favor, hit the like button, smash the like button, and subscribe to my channel, because every episode that I do is going to be different, as all our journeys are different. So you guys take care, and we'll talk to you next week.